The Fifth World. Part 1. Survivors. 2 robots broke into the seed arcs and emptied them. Inside glass tanks floated, separately, 1 man, 2 women, and 7 children. Their brains had been kept artificially active. The robots loaded everything into a European, an American, a Russian, and a Chinese shuttle. The ground glowed and smoked. The shuttles lifted off and disappeared through an energy ring. A crystal obelisk with a liquid, jelly-like body remarked, "Again not? Are these the only ones?" One of the robots made noises. "Yes," and once again a glass sphere. "Ding! You are survivors of a nuclear war. Your mind and soul have been saved. Choose your new body. Choose a task. Farmer. You are familiar with animal husbandry, plant cultivation, environmental and garden herbs. Your skills are cooking, weaving, and sewing. Hunter. You are familiar with wild herbs, hunting animals, as well as wild fruits, nuts, and mushrooms. Skills: tracking, setting traps, building light shelters, plant and animal poisons, building campfires, making wound bandages with plants. Ah, I'll take farmer. That's what I wanted to do after the war, just live peacefully." Name: Katrin. Welcome to the farm, Katrin. It belongs to the 3 of you, Bjorn, Naomi, and you. You rescued 7 surviving children. Kiki Asian. Lana European. Sura Sub-Saharan African. Sarah Arabic. Ni Latin American. Thomas European. Chan Asian. Your task is also to guide the children. Katrin tried to remember and wandered across the farm, but there was nothing behind the bright light except a tunnel, like a damp cave tunnel. And yet it felt as though she was not walking into the blue light, but retreating from it. The children slept on mats. She sat down by the fire beside Naomi and Bjorn, who had also just returned from their thoughts. After what felt like a long while, Naomi began. "There's nothing in the house. Tomorrow I'll look around and try to hunt something. I'll build a fence and a barn. Then we'll see if we can catch a few wild chickens and things like that," said Bjorn. Something for milk wouldn't be bad either. Mountain goats or something similar. Tomorrow I'll check the surroundings. Turnips, cabbage plants, or something like that, Katrin added. "Take the girls to help you. "I'll take the boys," Bjorn answered. They nodded and lay down to sleep in shifts. Naomi took the first watch so she could sleep deeply afterward for the hunt. When the sun peeked out to see whether the air was clear, Naomi stood up with a self-made bow and a handful of arrows. As a backup, she carried a large rhubarb leaf filled with pebbles and a narrow leather strip meant to serve as a sling. Guided by instinct without real memories, she moved like a scout, light, fast, and silent. Bjorn also rose early. He wanted to drag the heavy materials in during the morning coolness. Katrin heard them, got up as well, and prepared a small portion of berries and plums for each child from what they had gathered earlier. Suddenly Kiki arrived carrying a small kitten. "Look what I found." "All alone?" Katrin looked up. "Cute. Can you build a basket and line it with soft grass?" Kiki wanted to run off immediately, but Katrin stopped her. "One fruit portion is yours. Eat something first." With her mouth still stuffed full, she dashed off. "That must be urgent," Sura remarked as she sat up. Kiki built a basket with a roof from woven branches and lined it with grass and moss. The cat had already been given a collar braided from buttercups. It was still very young and quickly fell asleep in the basket. Sarah and Sura gathered fruit and wild vegetables together with Nee and Katrin. Chan and Thomas collected branches and sticks for building until Thomas began gathering long grasses and soft plants for Kiki. They had watched her start weaving mats. Lana tried spear fishing with a sharpened stick. In the afternoon, Sura and Nee planted a handful of grain seeds. By evening they had 2 pike, a wild boar, some blackberries, a sleeping shelter, a shelter for 4 or 5 small animals, and Kiki with a kitten in her lap. "Tomorrow Naomi, the boys, and I will try to catch animals. If Lana succeeds again with fishing, we can start planning and working for the future." "I can catch things too," Kiki announced. The adults looked at one another. "Yes, you can, but not tomorrow. You need to become a real friend to your kitten. That frees us from mice. Maybe you can also work more grass and moss into the roof, but use some fat to protect your hands," Naomi said. "I'll keep an eye on that," Katrin confirmed with a nod. "Should we plant blackberries as a fence?" Sura asked. They thought about it. After a while Katrin said, "No, for the moment we can't afford that. Maybe in around 10 places, then we'll have something for next year." Sura looked disappointed. Katrin held up both hands, fingers spread wide, and said, 10. Sura copied her and replied, 10, good. After the children had fallen asleep, Bjorn said, "We need to feel our way forward to see what they still remember." Yes. Forgetting can be protection and obstacle at the same time. We shouldn't dig up memories of how their parents and maybe siblings died, Naomi admitted. Late in the afternoon the hunters returned with 2 eggs but no captured animals. Lana had caught an eel, but out of fear that it might be a snake, she had completely smashed its head. Sura and Nee had planted the 10 bushes and 6 apple trees from breakfast apples, then watered everything. Katrin gathered herbs and replanted some closer to the unfinished house structure. She also found a few wild turnips. Kiki had woven half a mat and caught 2 wild chickens and a squirrel. But she released the squirrel because it didn't get along with the kitten. "This is Snowfur," Kiki explained while holding up the kitten, which purred happily. The hunts were not always successful, so hunger forced even the children to get used to leafy vegetables in the form of spinach stew. Naomi and Bjorn made a trip into the mountains to catch mountain goats for milk. Kiki and little Snowfur came back inside in the middle of the night, exhausted. Little Snowfur had caught a bat and finally won the fight around 3 in the morning. Kiki had naturally stood ready to secure Little Snowfur's victory if necessary. Little Snowfur simply fell asleep contentedly on top of Kiki. Kiki herself collapsed onto her mat like a board from exhaustion. A mat she returned to until midday after tending the chickens. Katrin briefly looked at her and shook her head happily. Somehow Chan seemed to follow Lana after work like a two-legged kitten. There was obviously a problem with Kiki. Her charming charisma made people look at her mostly, both Chan and Thomas. Ni also was not truly alone all the time. For boys, it must have seemed almost enchanted to watch girls begin developing curves, which was happening to all three of them. Then Sura slipped and tore open her lower leg. "Did you hurt yourself?" Thomas asked. "Oh no, your leg, you're bleeding," Chan said. "We have to carry her into the house," they both said at the same time. Then they carried Sura into the hut in a chair carry. "Our herb fairy is injured," Kiki reported while Katrin already held 2 large leaves in her hands. Little Snowfur cuddled briefly against Sura's leg after it had been bandaged, but then made it very clear that her loyalty belonged to Kiki. The boys treated Sura as if she were wrapped in cotton wool, if they had had any. On the evening of the 5th day after Naomi and Bjorn had left to find a goat, they returned. The goat was visibly exhausted from all the fleeing. After another 10 days of hunting, they also returned with a buck. Kiki took her animal care duties very seriously. Some days later Sarah walked by and joked, "So, can they speak English yet?" Kiki stared at her with wide eyes and then burst into laughter. "Mah, mah," she answered while making chewing motions like a ruminating goat. "I know you can be very diplomatic, but don't forget you're the smarter one," Sura said. "Hey? Thanks," Kiki answered and imitated the goat once again just to make sure. That evening Kiki declared a goat milk stop, and Sura and Ni were visibly disappointed too. There were only 4 blackberry sprouts and 2 apple tree seedlings. But every single sprout received its own celebration dance from the children. Naomi and Katrin protected the seedlings with rings of branches so they would not accidentally be stepped on or bent. Wait, don't click away yet. More episodes are planned, so check back again sometime or just subscribe. And hey, there are more stories on my channel, and on my website you can also find books and links to bookstores.